It's Sunday morning. You're standing in your church singing with overflowing passion, hands raised high toward heaven, eyes closed tight with fervor. Your heart feels full, brimming with spiritual emotion. You think with absolute conviction, this is truly loving God. This is what it means to be a genuine worshiper. Afterward, you go home. You pray over your meal with gratitude. You read your daily devotional with discipline. Perhaps you even serve in some ministry of your congregation with enthusiasm. And in your mind, you have absolute, unshakable certainty. I love God. My life is proof of it. But what if I told you that so many sincere believers think that loving God is simply raising hands in an emotional service, singing with tears streaming down their faces, feeling chills during worship? What if I told you the Bible reveals a completely different sign, a sign that reveals everything, that exposes the reality of your heart without mercy? Before you continue watching this video, before you advance even one more second, I need you to understand something that will probably make you deeply uncomfortable, something that will shake the very foundations of what you believed about your faith. No, it's not how much you pray at night before sleeping, although prayer is important. No, it's not how many verses you have memorized and stored in your heart, although knowing Scripture is valuable. No, it's not how many hours you serve in your church on weekends, although service is necessary. No, it's not how loudly you sing on Sundays, although worship is beautiful. No, it's not how many amens you say during the sermon with enthusiasm, although being attentive is good. No, it's not how many Christian conferences you've attended this year, although learning is useful. If you believe those are the definitive signs that you love God, if you think your religious resume is proof of your love, then you need to listen with absolute attention to what comes next, because your perspective is about to change radically. If this message is already resonating in your spirit, if you feel that something here is going to transform the way you see your relationship with God, I ask you to do something right now before continuing. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any video that challenges your faith and takes you deeper in your walk with Christ. Give this video a like if you believe this truth needs to be shared with more people who are living a Christianity of appearances. And leave me a comment below, even if it's just an amen or I need to hear this, so I know you're here, that your heart is open to being confronted and transformed. Your interaction helps us continue sharing the gospel message without compromise. Today I'm going to show you the clearest, most undeniable, most biblical sign of whether you truly love God or are just playing at religion. And I'll tell you with complete honesty, it's not what you imagine. It's not what they taught you in Sunday school. It's not what appears on Christian social media. It's a truth so simple that it's hidden in plain sight, so obvious that most people pass it over without thinking twice, so uncomfortable that many prefer to ignore it and continue with their superficial Christianity. And when you finish watching this complete video, you'll never be able to deceive yourself again, because you're going to have to come face to face with a question that will change your spiritual perspective forever, that will force you to reevaluate your entire Christian life. But are you prepared for that truth? Are you willing to have your faith confronted? Because once you hear it, once this word penetrates your heart, there's no going back. You can't unhear it. You can't pretend you don't know it. Let me paint 3 scenes that you've probably lived firsthand or seen very closely in your congregation, in your family, perhaps even in the mirror. Scene 1. The selective believer, the one who chooses when to obey. It's Tuesday morning, an ordinary day. John wakes up early and finds a message from his boss asking him to stay extra hours at the office, precisely the day he had planned in advance to go to the weekly Bible study, that commitment he had made with his discipleship group. His first reaction, almost automatic, without thinking twice. God understands my situation. He knows my job is important, that I have responsibilities, that I need that extra income. The same John who just 3 days earlier, on Sunday morning, was singing with tears running down his cheeks. All to you I surrender, all to you, Lord. raising his hands with overflowing passion. Scene 2. The resentful sister, the one who worships with her lips but harbors bitterness in her heart. Mary is at the front of her church choir, leading beautiful praises about God's unconditional love and infinite forgiveness. Her voice is beautiful, even angelic. Her worship seems genuine from any angle. Her gestures are perfect. Her facial expression conveys devotion. But when the service ends and she comes down from the platform, when she sees the sister who offended her 3 months ago with hurtful words, she deliberately walks down the other aisle to avoid her, looks away, pretends not to have seen her. The same Mary who literally just sang with all her being about God's unconditional love, about forgiving 70 times 7, about loving without conditions. Scene 3. The apparent servant, the one who serves in public but fails in private. Peter faithfully serves in 3 different ministries of his church. He's on the evangelism team, going out to the streets, in the youth ministry organizing activities, and helps with technical sound every Sunday without fail. Everyone in the congregation sees him as a brilliant example of love for God, as a role model, as someone truly committed. But when he arrives home after all that ministerial activity, he treats his wife with cold indifference, as if she were invisible, yells at his children for any insignificant thing they do wrong. And if the neighbor urgently needs help with something, his internal response is, "That's not my problem. I already do enough at church." Do any of these scenes sound familiar? Do you recognize yourself in any of them? Have you been John, Mary, or Peter at some point? Because here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to admit out loud. All these brothers sincerely believe they love God with all their hearts. All have impressive external evidence they can show. All can present their spiritual resume full of religious activities and achievements. But there's something fundamental they're not seeing, something that's completely escaping them, something that Jesus himself is going to reveal with absolute clarity. Now listen very carefully, with all your attention, to what Jesus himself said. Not what I personally think about the subject, not what your pastor thinks about it, not what the religious tradition of your denomination says, not what appears in Christian self-help books. What Jesus himself, the Son of God, declared clearly, without ambiguity, in John 14:15, "If you love me, keep my commandments." Did you hear that? Did you really pay deep attention to those simple but revolutionary words? Jesus didn't say, "If you love me, sing to me loudly and emotionally in church every Sunday with raised hands." Jesus didn't say, "If you love me, pray 3 hours a day without missing a single day of the year." Jesus didn't say, "If you love me, memorize the entire Bible from Genesis to Revelation word for word." Jesus didn't say, "If you love me, serve in 5 different ministries at once until you're exhausted." Jesus didn't say, "If you love me, attend all church services and activities without exception." Jesus didn't say, "If you love me, tithe the exact percentage every month without fail." No, he said something much simpler in appearance, and at the same time infinitely more challenging in practice, something that cuts like a double-edged sword. "If you love me, keep my commandments." And in case that wasn't clear enough with those words, in case someone thought it was an optional suggestion, in 1 John 5:3, the beloved apostle, the one who rested his head on Jesus' chest, says something even more direct and without possible ambiguity. "For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome." Do you know what the unmistakable, undeniable, impossible to fake, impossible to pretend long-term sign is that you truly love God? Obedience. But wait, before you think you've already understood, before you move forward without reflecting deeply, let me clarify something crucial. I'm not talking about just any superficial obedience, not obedience when it's convenient and aligns with your personal plans. Not obedience when you feel spiritually inspired after a powerful service. Not obedience when there are people watching and applauding your exemplary behavior. Not obedience when you receive public recognition for your faithfulness. I'm talking about obedience when it hurts in the deepest part of your being, when it goes against everything your flesh desires. Obedience when it costs your personal comfort, your wounded pride, your carefully laid plans, your deepest desires. Obedience when nobody sees you doing the right thing, when there's no human recognition, when there's no immediate visible reward. Obedience when everything in you, every fiber of your being, every emotion, every thought, desperately screams for you to do the opposite, to take the easy path. Now comes the hard part, the part that many sincere believers don't want to hear because it confronts their spiritual mediocrity. Because true love for God manifests in progressive levels of obedience, like steps on a spiritual ladder ascending toward maturity. And unfortunately, most believers remain comfortably stuck at the most superficial levels, never advancing. Level 1. Empty religiosity, the faith of appearances. At this first level, the lowest, everything is exclusively about external ritual and public appearance. It's easy, comfortable, and convenient to pray when you desperately need something from God, when you're in crisis. It's comfortable and pleasant to sing when the music is beautiful, professional, and makes you feel good emotionally when it gives you chills. It's simple and gratifying to serve when they applaud you for it and publicly recognize you as a great servant when they put you on the platform. Here, at this basic level, the motivation is completely selfish, centered on the self. People pray to obtain material blessings so God will solve their problems. They sing to feel good emotionally, to experience a discharge of spiritual endorphins. They serve to be seen and admired by others, to build a religious reputation. They read the Bible to accumulate impressive intellectual knowledge, not for genuine character transformation. This isn't true love toward God. This is cold, calculated commercial exchange. I do this for you. You give me that in return. It's a business transaction, not a love relationship. It's using God as a means to your ends, not loving Him for who He is. Level 2. Selective obedience, the faith of convenience. This is where, unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of sincere and well-intentioned Christians find themselves. They obey when it's convenient, when it aligns perfectly with their personal plans and pre-existing desires. They forgive when the offense wasn't so great, when it didn't cost them too much emotionally. They love when the other person is kind and considerate to them first, when there's reciprocity. They give when they have abundance and it doesn't hurt, when it doesn't affect their lifestyle. They serve when they have free time and leftover energy, when they don't sacrifice anything important. Listen to these revealing phrases that expose this level of conditional obedience. Yes, Lord, I obey you, but my particular situation is different. You don't understand my context. Of course I obey you in everything, except when it goes against my common sense or my interests. Of course I forgive as you command, but she really hurt me deeply and hasn't apologized. I love my enemy, as you say, but he doesn't deserve my forgiveness because he continues being bad. I give generously, but first I have to secure my future and my comfort. Do you know what this really is? That's also not true love toward God. That's constant spiritual negotiation. It's trying to make deals with God, to bargain with Him. It's putting conditions on your obedience, establishing limits to your surrender. It's telling God, I love you, but only this far, don't ask me for more. Level 3. Love that demonstrates itself in radical sacrifice, faith that costs everything. But there's a higher level that very few believers reach in their lives, a level that requires deep spiritual maturity and total surrender without reservations. The level where you obey even when it hurts you physically, emotionally, or financially in a significant way. Where you forgive even when the other person doesn't deserve it at all, when they continue deliberately hurting you, when they show no repentance. Where you love even when you receive absolutely nothing in return, when you even receive mistreatment and rejection. Where you give until it hurts, until it affects your personal comfort. Where you serve in secret, without anyone knowing, without ever expecting recognition. When Jesus clearly said, "Love your enemies, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you," He wasn't suggesting an optional possibility for the super spiritual. He was commanding a non-negotiable way of life for all his followers. When he said, "Forgive 70 times 7, he wasn't giving an option you can take or leave according to your mood. He was establishing an absolute, non-negotiable standard for those who claim to follow him. When he said, "Deny yourself, take up your cross daily and follow me," he wasn't asking for an occasional favor when you feel inspired. He was revealing the daily, moment-by-moment cost of true love toward him. This is the level where your obedience no longer depends on your fluctuating emotions of the moment. It doesn't depend on favorable or unfavorable circumstances surrounding you. It doesn't depend on whether people treat you well or badly. Your obedience flows naturally from a love so deep, so rooted in your being, that absolutely nothing can stop it. Not pain, not rejection, not misunderstanding, not personal cost. If this video is making you reflect deeply about your life, if it's stirring something in the deepest part of your interior that has been asleep, if it's questioning things you took for granted in your faith, then you need to do something right now. You need to subscribe to this channel immediately to continue receiving messages that challenge your mediocrity and propel you towards spiritual excellence. Like this video, not necessarily because you like what you're hearing, but because you honestly recognize that you need this type of spiritual confrontation in your life. This type of biblical mirror that shows you reality without filters. And share it urgently with someone who, like you, needs to honestly ask themselves if they're really loving God the way He deserves and demands, or are just pretending, playing at religion to feel good about themselves and their conscience. Now stop for a moment and be brutally honest with yourself. At what level are you right now in your life? At which of these 3 levels do you honestly recognize, without deceiving yourself, your current love for God? Are you willing to be brutally honest with yourself, to remove all religious masks? Because this isn't about impressing anyone. It's not about looking good. It's about your soul, about your real relationship with God. Look, if this message is making you deeply uncomfortable, if you're feeling it's stirring things inside you that you'd prefer to leave quiet and buried, if it's touching areas of your life you've kept outside Christ's lordship, it's because it's working exactly as God's word should work. Because true love toward God doesn't come to comfortably console you in your spiritual mediocrity, to tell you it's perfectly fine to stay where you are, to pat your back. No, it comes to challenge you to grow beyond your current limits, to expand the borders of your faith, to take you beyond your religious comfort zone. Real, genuine spiritual growth is always uncomfortable at first, always hurts, always requires that we abandon something comfortable to gain something infinitely better. But there's more, much more you need to understand about this obedience that reveals your love. Because true obedience has specific characteristics that distinguish it from simple external religious conformity. First characteristic, obedience born of love is immediate. It doesn't wait for the perfect moment. When God speaks to you, when His Spirit confronts you about something specific in your life, true obedience responds, "Yes, Lord," right now, not "Yes, Lord," but let me think about it. Let me prepare the conditions. Let me wait for the ideal moment. Second characteristic, obedience born of love is complete, not partial or selective. You don't obey only in the comfortable areas of your life while keeping other areas out of God's reach. You don't say, "Lord, I give you 90% of my life, but this 10% is mine. Don't interfere here." Complete obedience says, "Everything I am and everything I have is yours, without reservations, without forbidden areas." Third characteristic, obedience born of love is costly. It requires real sacrifice. If your obedience never costs you anything, if you never have to give up something you value, if you never experience discomfort or loss, then you're probably not truly obeying. You're just doing what you wanted to do anyway. Fourth characteristic, obedience born of love is consistent. It doesn't depend on your mood. You don't obey only when you feel spiritually inspired after a powerful retreat, but also on gray days, in moments of spiritual drought, when you feel absolutely nothing. Fifth characteristic, obedience born of love is private before it's public. The most important obedience decisions you make in secret, when nobody sees you, when there are no cameras, when there are no applause, when it's just you and God. Now let me show you something that's going to completely change your perspective on obedience. In 1 Samuel 15:22, the prophet Samuel says something devastating to King Saul, who had partially disobeyed God but had offered religious sacrifices to compensate. Has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed than the fat of rams. Do you understand what this means for your life today? God prefers your simple, direct obedience in the small things of daily life than all your impressive religious sacrifices. He prefers that you treat your spouse well at home than that you sing beautifully in church. He prefers that you genuinely forgive whoever offended you than that you fast 3 days. He prefers that you be honest in your work than that you give a generous tithe. He prefers that you control your tongue and not speak badly of others than that you pray 2 hours a day. Because religious sacrifices are easy, they're visible, they're applauded. But obedience in the hidden, in the small, in the everyday, that's what reveals whether you really love God or just love the idea of being religious. And here comes another truth that's going to make many uncomfortable. Your disobedience in the small areas reveals that your love for God is conditional, not absolute. Jesus said in Luke 16:10, "He who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much, and he who is unjust in what is least is unjust also in much." If you can't obey God in the small things nobody sees, in controlling your tongue, in forgiving minor offenses, in being honest in insignificant details, in treating your family well, how do you expect God to trust you for greater things? How do you hope He'll use you powerfully if you're not faithful in the hidden? Spiritual greatness isn't built on the platform. It's built in your living room, in your workplace, in your car when nobody sees you, on your phone when you're alone, in your thoughts when nobody hears them. It's there, in those small private moments, where it's revealed whether you really love God or just love the reputation of loving Him. Before you close this video and continue with your day as if nothing happened, as if this word hadn't confronted you, I want to leave you with the most important questions that will define your real relationship with God. Not your imaginary relationship or the one you project publicly. The questions that will determine with absolute clarity whether you're living an authentic, transformative faith or just a superficial, empty religiosity that changes nothing in your real life. First, crucial question. Does your love for God show in your obedience when nobody is watching you? When you're completely alone in your room? When there are no human witnesses? Or does it only show in your public appearance when everyone is watching and evaluating your behavior? Second question, do you obey God even when it significantly costs you your personal comfort, your wounded pride, your hard-earned money, your carefully elaborated plans, your deepest and most legitimate desires, or only when it's convenient, easy, and doesn't require real sacrifice on your part? Third question, does your family, the people who live with you day by day and know you without masks, see in you someone who genuinely loves God truly, or do they only see someone who speaks beautifully and spiritually on Sundays at church, but lives in a completely different, even contradictory way the rest of the week? Fourth question, would your co-workers, your neighbors who observe you regularly, the people who know you in real life outside the religious context, clearly see Christ in you without you having to explicitly tell them you're a Christian, without you having to wear a shirt with a verse, without you having to play Christian music? Fifth and final, most penetrating question. If today someone could see your complete life for an entire week without interruptions, without hearing your beautiful spiritual words, without seeing your impressive religious activities, just silently observing how you live, moment by moment, how you react under extreme pressure, how you treat others when you're tired, stressed, or frustrated, how you respond when no religious person sees or evaluates you. Would they see someone who truly loves God with all their being? Would they see the undeniable evidence, impossible to fake, of a life genuinely transformed by Christ's love? Or would they see an ordinary person who simply attends a church on Sundays? Don't answer these uncomfortable questions to me. Don't answer them out loud to look good. Answer yourself with the most brutal, rawest honesty you can muster. Remove all religious masks, all elaborate justifications, all well-constructed excuses. But above all, answer Him, God Himself, who knows every thought before you think it, every hidden motivation behind your actions, every secret area of your life that desperately needs to be surrendered to His complete lordship. Because at the end of the day, at the end of your life, when you're face to face with Him, it won't matter how many songs you sang with emotion, how many hours you served in ministries, how many verses you memorized, how many conferences you attended. The only thing that will matter is whether you truly loved Him, and the only evidence of that love will be your obedience in the great and in the small, in the public and in the private, in the comfortable and in the costly. May God bless you abundantly, confront you with unbreakable love, and change you powerfully from the inside out. And may your love for Him be demonstrated where it really matters, not on religious platforms where everyone applauds, but in your faithful daily obedience, in the small everyday moments that nobody sees except Him, in the right decisions you make when nobody is applauding, when there's no human recognition, when there's only your conscience and your God. If this message transformed something inside you, if it stirred areas of your life that needed to be confronted, then don't stay silent. Subscribe to this channel right now to continue growing in your faith without compromise. Give it a like, so more people receive this word that confronts and transforms. Comment awake if you're ready to live a faith of radical obedience, not religious appearances. And share this video with someone who needs to hear that loving God isn't singing beautifully on Sundays, but obeying Him faithfully every day. Because in the end, that's the only sign that matters, the only one that can't be faked, the only one that transcends empty words and manifests in concrete actions, the only one that God Himself takes into account when evaluating the authenticity of our hearts. May your life be a living testimony of loving obedience, not empty religiosity.